It started with a knock, sharp, rhythmic, entitled, the kind that doesn't wait for permission. When I opened the door, she was already taking pictures. Clipboard tucked under one arm, phone angled like a weapon. Sunlight glared off her sunglasses. "Mr. Lawson?" she said, voice coated with fake cheer. "We've had a complaint about an unauthorized structure on your property." I followed her gaze to the back of my yard. My shed, freshly painted cedar, sitting exactly where the old one used to be. Same footprint, better build. "That shed," she said, tapping her pen, "violates HOA Code 4B, Section 3. Non-conforming structure within 10 feet of the rear boundary." I almost laughed. "It's been there since '97. I just replaced rotten boards." She didn't smile. "That's a new structure. It requires approval and removal." Behind her, the gravel in my driveway crunched, our neighbor Linda watching from her porch like a hawk over roadkill. She was the self-appointed architectural committee, though no one ever voted her in. Everyone just avoided her. "Tell you what," I said, keeping my tone calm. "I'll look into the bylaws." "You do that," she said, already snapping another photo, "because we will be issuing a fine." Then she turned on her heel and left. By Monday morning, the first notice appeared in my mailbox. Violation 4B, unauthorized construction. $250 per week until rectified. Stamped and signed by HOA President Linda Hoffman. I could almost hear her smug grin through the paper. I wasn't angry, just curious, because I'd done my homework before building that shed. The original plat map, the property survey, the HOA's own architectural guidelines, I'd checked every inch. Still, I played it cool. I started a file. Dates, copies, photos, everything. A chain of custody for what I already suspected would become a battle of paperwork. That night, my wife, Emma, came home from her firm. She's a real estate attorney. Calm as steel, sharp as a tack. I slid the violation notice across the counter like a poker card. She read it once, then again, then looked up. "They just cited the wrong section," she said. 4B refers to permanent dwellings, not auxiliary structures. "Think they'll admit that?" I asked. She smiled, small, knowing. "No, but we'll make them." The next few days turned into a slow-motion war. First came the second notice. Higher fine, sterner tone. Then came the anonymous complaint emails, CC'd to every homeowner in the community. Certain residents think they're above the rules. I knew exactly whose keyboard those came from. Then one morning I found tire tracks in my backyard. Deep, fresh parallel. Someone had driven a golf cart right up to the shed. A muddy boot print marked the step. Trespassing. That's when I installed the cameras. One over the shed, one by the gate, one facing the street. All motion activated, night vision, time-stamped. By the end of the week, I had my proof. Linda, clipboard in hand, trespassing. Again. At the next HOA open forum, she tried to make a spectacle out of me. We gathered in the clubhouse. Plastic chairs, lukewarm coffee, the usual turnout of retirees pretending to enjoy the power. Linda cleared her throat and pointed at me. "Mr. Lawson continues to disregard our architectural standards. His illegal shed—" "Point of order," I said calmly. "Section 4B doesn't apply. Section 7C does. Auxiliary structures under 200 square feet, located beyond the primary dwelling, are permitted without prior approval if replacing an existing one." She froze. Her lips tightened. "You're misinterpreting that clause." I pulled out my folder. "You mean this clause? From the same revision you signed in 2018. The room went quiet. You could hear the air conditioner hum. Then, like a scene from a bad sitcom, my phone pinged. The camera app notification. Motion detected. Backyard gate. I turned the screen around, live feed. Linda's husband Carl opening my gate, stepping onto my property. "Oh," I said. "Looks like the violation committee's meeting on my lawn right now." Murmurs rippled through the room. Someone stifled a laugh. That was the moment it stopped being a neighborhood spat. It became an investigation. I didn't need to raise my voice. The footage would do it for me. The next morning, Emma drafted a cease and desist, 2 pages, clean, surgical. She cited trespassing statutes, property boundaries per county record, and a not-so-gentle reminder about harassment penalties under HOA Act Para 720-333. We mailed it certified, and for the first time in weeks, the street went quiet. No notes on the door. No friendly reminders. No boot prints in the mud. But quiet doesn't mean over, because that's when Linda went to the county zoning office. And pulled something I didn't see coming. The letter from the county came on a Tuesday. Official seal. Crisp envelope, that bureaucratic perfume of toner and arrogance. Notice of investigation. Potential code infraction. Unpermitted structure. Linda hadn't just complained to the HOA. She'd gone straight to the zoning board, claiming my shed was an unregistered dwelling unit. A dwelling unit. Like I'd built a secret Airbnb in my backyard. Emma read it twice, eyes narrowing. "She's trying to escalate jurisdiction," she said. "If the county steps in, it's not just fines, it's demolition orders." "So what now?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Now we make it official." We started the evidence hunt. Emma pulled property records from the county archive, original permits, plot plans, surveyor coordinates down to the 10th of a foot. Meanwhile, I collected our own documentation, doorbell footage, timestamps, HOA emails, and the newly minted trespass file. The shed sat 10 feet 6 inches from the rear property line. The bylaw minimum. 10 feet exactly. Linda's math had never been her strong suit. We even planted a GPS tracker, an AirTag hidden behind a loose plank, just to see if anyone else would inspect the structure. While we weren't home, within 48 hours, the tag pinged. Movement. Sunday, 3:14 p.m. We were at my nephew's birthday party across town. Someone had entered the yard again. When we reviewed the footage, the image froze on her face. Linda, measuring tape in hand. Leaning so close to the shed window, her reflection distorted in the glass. Emma exhaled through her nose. "Perfect. Chain of evidence, time-stamped, GPS corroboration." Then she added softly, "Let's make her talk under oath." We contacted an ally, our next-door neighbor. Bill, retired county surveyor, 70 years old, built like he'd wrestled with odolites for sport. He came by that evening with a laser rangefinder and a calm grin. "You're well within the line," he said, marking bright orange tape along the property pins. "If anything, her fence encroaches on your easement. I took pictures from every angle, low shots showing pin depth, wide shots showing scale, and one close-up of Bill holding the laser reading. Evidence wasn't emotion. It was geometry. By the next week, we had a binder thick enough to stop a bullet. Emma labeled every page. Date, source, corroborating code section. When she was done, she closed the cover and said, "Let's give them a show." The county inspection happened on a humid Thursday morning. I stayed home, coffee in hand, pretending to prune the hedges while the zoning officer took measurements. Linda hovered beside him, mask of confidence cracking every time the tape snapped back. 10 feet 6 inches, the officer said finally. "Compliant," Linda's smile faltered. "Are you sure?" "The HOA guidelines," he cut her off. "County code supersedes HOA bylaws, ma'am, and this structure is permitted by right." Emma appeared at that moment, stepping out of the house in a navy blazer. She looked every inch the part. Professional, unbothered, razor-sharp. "Thank you for your time, officer," she said smoothly. "We'll expect a written confirmation for our records." The officer nodded, tipped his cap, and left. Linda lingered, her voice dropping to a hiss. "You think this is over?" Emma didn't even blink. "I think it's on the record." By evening, the HOA message board lit up. Anonymous posts, passive-aggressive comments, whispers of special assessments. Someone even suggested a rule amendment. All auxiliary structures must undergo visual review by the board. That was Linda's move. Rewrite the rules mid-game. But she forgot one thing. HOA amendments require member approval. And the members? They were tired. I decided to show them what tired looked like on paper. I printed every email, every photo of Linda trespassing, every violation she'd signed. I laid them out across my dining table like evidence for a courtroom exhibit. Then I drafted a summary report and sent it, BCC'd, to every homeowner. Subject line: Pattern of misconduct by HOA president. It spread like a spark in dry grass. Within hours, my phone lit up with messages. I thought I was the only one she targeted. She fined me for leaving my hose out. Finally, someone standing up to her. By sunset, half the neighborhood was ready to attend the next meeting. For the first time, the power shifted. The final piece fell into place when Emma received an email from the HOA treasurer, quiet guy. Accountant type, he wrote, "For what it's worth, Linda authorized a $1,200 legal consultation payment last quarter. No record of board approval. Might want to look into that. Unapproved funds, unauthorized spending. Paper trail. Emma leaned back in her chair. That's not just unethical, she said. That's misappropriation. I grinned. You're saying we can make it her violation? She tapped the folder. Oh, I'm saying we can make it public record. And that's exactly what we did. At the next HOA meeting, the clubhouse was packed. More chairs, more eyes, more tension. Linda walked in late, sunglasses on, pretending not to see me. She didn't know Emma was about to speak. Or that we'd invited the county officer. Or that Bill, the surveyor, had printed his findings in triplicate. The air was thick with the kind of silence that happens before a storm. And when Emma stood, her voice was steady. Before we discuss any community matters, she said, we have a few questions about fiduciary transparency and abuse of authority. Linda's pen froze mid-air. This wasn't going to be a discussion. It was going to be a reckoning. The air inside the clubhouse felt like a held breath, heavy, waiting to snap. Folding chairs creaked. The smell of burnt coffee mixed with cheap carpet glue. And right in the middle, Linda sat at the head of the table, pretending her clipboard was a shield. Emma stood beside me, calm as a judge. She set a single folder on the table. It landed with a soft thud that sounded louder than it should have. Before we begin, she said, a voice carrying through the room, I'd like to address multiple irregularities in recent HOA actions, specifically the misuse of association funds and unlawful harassment of a homeowner. A few murmurs rippled through the room. Someone in the back muttered, finally. Linda laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. Mrs. Lawson, this isn't a courtroom. Emma's smile was slight. No, but you've created a record that belongs in one. She opened the folder. The first page was a printout of the $200 payment the treasurer had flagged, highlighted in yellow. This payment, she continued, was made to Legal Consult Group LLC. According to the State Business Registry, that company doesn't exist. Linda blinked. That's a clerical. Emma slid another sheet forward. Here's the bank transaction. Your signature. Date stamped, no board approval, no vote, no minutes. That's embezzlement under state statute, Par 607 Tordra 830. You could have heard a pin drop. The treasurer looked down, pale. The secretary shuffled her papers like she wanted to disappear. Linda tried to recover, voice trembling slightly. You have no authority to accuse. I have documentation, Emma said flatly. And I have witnesses. She turned to the back of the room. Mr. Bill Walker, county surveyor. Would you please confirm your findings regarding our property boundary? Bill stood steady as stone. Yes, ma'am. The Lawson shed meets setback requirements. 10 feet 6 inches. I verified pins myself. Their fence, however, encroaches 19 inches onto his lot. The crowd stirred. Neighbors exchanging glances, whispers building into quiet outrage. Linda's eyes darted to me. This is harassment. I leaned forward, voice low but clear. No, Linda, this is documentation. Then came the twist she didn't see coming. The county officer, invited by Emma, cleared his throat. For the record, Ms. Hoffman, your recent complaint to zoning included falsified measurements and a personal claim of enforcement authority. I've logged that as a misuse of public reporting resources. A flush crept up Linda's neck. Emma's tone stayed surgical. We also have trespass footage. Multiple instances. Each recorded, time-stamped, verified by GPS. She pressed play on her tablet. On-screen Linda, stepping through my gate holding a tape measure. A clear color image. The gasps from the crowd were real. Emma paused the video and looked up. You entered private property without consent, on 3 occasions. We've filed a cease and desist, but if it continues, we'll proceed with a restraining order. Linda's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The silence that followed was thick and final. Then, one by one, the board members started speaking. I never approved that fine. She told me you refused inspection. I didn't know she went on your property. This isn't what we signed up for. Within minutes, the meeting turned. A motion was made right there. One neighbor, then another. Motion to remove the current HOA president for misconduct. Hands went up like a wave. Every hand but hers. The secretary recorded it in the minutes. The treasurer signed off. And just like that, Linda Hoffman was no longer HOA president. After the meeting, the room emptied slowly. People came up to shake my hand, to thank Emma, to tell their own horror stories. The same woman who fined a family for a trampoline. Who told a veteran his flag was too large? Justice had a quiet hum that night, the kind that settles in your chest and stays. Linda left without a word. She passed me in the parking lot, eyes hard, muttering something about appeals and lawyers. I didn't answer, just smiled. And my wife loves paperwork. A few weeks later, a letter arrived. Final confirmation from the county. Case closed. No violation. Attached was a note from the zoning officer himself. Always good to see a homeowner who knows their code better than the HOA. The new HOA board voted to reimburse all wrongful fines. They even invited me to help rewrite the bylaws, to make them clearer. Fairer, less prone to interpretation. I agreed. On one condition, every enforcement action must be documented, time-stamped, and approved by a majority vote. Transparency by design. The shed still stands, polished cedar, square and steady under the sun. Every time I see it, I remember that knock, that clipboard, that arrogance. And I remember how quickly a bully collapses when the truth gets written down. Lesson: don't fight fire with anger. Fight it with evidence. Boundaries matter, not just in property but in principle. If you've ever dealt with an HOA Karen or had to reclaim your rights one document at a time, drop your story below. And subscribe for the next one.